Well, stocks are sinking today after Fed Chair Jerome Powell warned of a possible prolonged recession from the coronavirus. What can we expect heading into the final hour of trading? Here now is Walser Wealth Management President Rebecca Walser. And Rebecca, what do you think about these markets today? It's pretty red.
Yeah, I think it's a reaction of people saying, oh, we're not going to just get negative interest rates and great stimulus. I think Powell's dead on, though, Cheryl. I mean, what is everyone expecting? I got to be honest with you. If we keep saying we're not going to reopen, right, then we aren't going to reopen and our economy is not going to bounce back. I don't even know what to say the word is. Nothing to take away from Dr. Fauci's testimony yesterday, but I'm sorry, the numbers so far have not borne out as they said they would. We closed down. Let's not forget that we closed down so that we could flatten the curve, which was done. Nobody ever said, let's close down indefinitely until we have a vaccine. So that is totally ridiculous and off the table. And when you have testimony like that, followed by a Federal Reserve Chairman who's being realistic, I mean, one thing that stood out to me, Cheryl, he said 40% of people making under $40,000 lost their job. That is a statistic that is just unbelievable. And we are headed towards the biggest depression we have ever experienced ever in the history of time if we do not reopen this economy.
You said the word depression. You believe depression? Because that's the big debate right now, recession or depression. And look, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, he's talking about this is the worst we've seen since World War II. But yes, we did have a depression in the 30s.
Yes, absolutely. So World War II was after the 30s depression. And that was the Great Depression, right? I'm not saying that, Cheryl. I'm not saying we're going to have depression. I'm saying if we don't reopen, these people that think that they can keep everything closed and then their state can go with their hand out to the federal government and get a bailout of $1 trillion. It's not going to happen. We don't have the money. All of the money that is derived at the federal level and the state level comes from us, the consumer. We are a consumer society. We have to consume in order to generate a tax base. So we must reopen, and people need to open their eyes and see that as a reality and start to talk about how can we demand that we reopen and make that the safest way possible, instead of talking about this la land that will never happen, that if we stay closed forever, we'll just somehow get a federal bailout. It's not possible. It is not going to happen. We have to reopen. And if we don't, Cheryl, then yes, the biggest depression that has ever been recorded in the history of time will come. It will come.
You know, to your point yesterday about this time, actually, or it was in the 3 o'clock hour, we found out that L.A. County was looking to possibly keep stay-at-home orders in place until July, 3 months. And the question mark for the New York City economy is the same. These are large-scale economies, billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar economies. What's the point of no return for you?
I mean, Cheryl, I think that they just think they're going to go to the federal government and have another CARES Act every 3 months.
I don't
just
think
like
they're going to get it, though.
Yesterday.
I don't think they're going to. Mitch McConnell has said it's not happening.
Exactly. Dead on arrival with the proposal that came out yesterday out of the House. They're not going to get it. So these politicians would do their citizens that they serve a great service, that they start to realize that there is no money tree at the federal level and at the state level. And instead, let's start talking about how we can safely return to a economy that is getting back to work. This idea of crashing the economy indefinitely and people aren't going to the economy is not going to collapse. I don't know where these people, they don't have economics degrees. They were talking about doctors, right? And no defense or, not trying to ding them. But Dr. Fauci is not the one that we need to be taking our economic advice from, because he's not an economist. There is no way that we can stay closed until we have an actual, vaccine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say virus, but I'm trying to say vaccine. Cheryl, it's not possible. We have got to reopen. We have got to reopen. And we've got to start this mantra now of reopen, reopen, reopen. Because if we don't, we are looking at the biggest depression in the history of time. And it's not necessary. Look at the data. They're acting like this is the Black Plague. This is not the bubonic plague. This is not the Black Plague. The numbers of death. Let's start breaking down the death rates by age group. Let's start doing that. Let's start breaking down numbers by comorbidities. Okay, let's start breaking down the deaths and really starting to justify, do we need to remain closed? The answer is a resounding no. know, even from the medical community, except for the outliers that would prefer, because they don't want the liability. I'm a lawyer. I understand you don't want the liability of reopening.
I hear you.
I hear you. Bring on a depression.
Rebecca Walser, you are fabulous, and it was great to hear from you. Thank you so much for your passion, especially about these